The 2018 hunting season started full of anticipation. I was looking forward to bow hunting turkeys in the spring, heading west to chase muleys in Nebraska in September, and top it off with Michigan's whitetail season. May rolled around and my first goal was to take a turkey with my longbow, something I've struggled to do for the past 3 years. There's something about doing a run and gun type hunt with a traditional bow that I can't seem to figure out. The issue isn't getting birds in. It's more a struggle of getting drawn back without being seen and then making a good shot on a moving bird. After a few failed attempts this year, I decided to go with the compound, as that seemed challenging enough for me. Challenging it was, as I had my fair share of misses with that as well. They say persistence pays off though, and that's just what happened, as one of the craziest things I've ever seen in the woods unfolded before my eyes.
Well, folks, I just shot myself a Jake. I got lucky, like crazy lucky. I was at full draw. I called these few Jakes in. I was at full draw and went to shoot and flinched real bad, and it hit the side of a tree, banked back down to where the bird was, and I drilled him off of a ricochet. Just hammered him. Talk about fortunate. I've worked hard for these birds, so I guess that's just the way the chips fall in your favor sometimes. I filmed it on the GoPro. I don't know how well you'll be able to see, but holy cow, was that crazy.
I went into Nebraska this year with truly sky-high expectations, something that I found can be extremely dangerous as a bow hunter. The previous year, a good buddy of mine and I headed out to Nebraska for the first time, and he killed a stud on the very first morning. I had decided to take my recurve and was very confident with how I'd been shooting inside 25 yards. We proceeded to hunt the following 8 days with tons of close encounters on some fantastic bucks. Unfortunately, I never got that trad bow chip shot I was looking forward to. In 2018, I decided to head west and seek revenge with the compound. After all, the year before I could have tagged out on several dandy bucks if I would have only had a compound. Heading on a trip with a "this should be easy" mentality is a mistake that I will never make again, no matter how much past success I've had. We started our trip in the exact same area we'd had all the success the year before and quickly found out the deer were no longer hanging out on the public. We saw plenty of good bucks on private and tried getting permission to go after them with no success. We scoured the surrounding public to try and get into muleys. It was pretty clear we needed to switch things up. What do you want?
Tell them what
our plan is. We're leaving Chadron because there's no mule deer bucks on public. We have seen big muleys on private and some whitetail bucks on public, and have tried to set up on the ones we've seen on public, and it didn't work out. So now we're going south, like as far south as you can possibly go.
We're gonna sneak into Colorado.
As close to Colorado as you can get, because Nebraska Northwest is not what it once was. Just as the deer seemed to know the effective distance of my weapon of choice the year before, there again was an invisible bubble surrounding me the entire trip. I was simply looking for a 30 to 40 yard shot on a broadside animal. After we moved south, we found a few little honey holes, but I couldn't get it done. I tried pushing my comfortable shooting limit, which ended up in a few clean misses. That is something I regret and wished I wouldn't have done. Desperation would be a very accurate term to describe how I was feeling, but that is no excuse. I feel like I learned a lot from that situation and demonstrated my newfound patience and conservative mentality when I got back to Michigan and started pursuing whitetails. Nebraska ended up being an extremely humbling trip, but made me truly reflect on why I hunt and what an amazing blessing it is to even be able to go out west and hunt in the first place. I returned home with my tail tucked between my legs from Nebraska. However, I had a lot to look forward to in the upcoming season. My main goal in the early part of October was to harvest my first ever buck off of public land, and if I got the chance, to hunt my #1 target buck, but more on him later. Between my work schedule and a few personal things, I wasn't able to get out and hunt near as much as I'd planned in the first 3 weeks of October, especially on public. I'd put a lot of time in during the off-season scouting public lands and felt like I had put myself in a good position to come through on my goal. Unfortunately, when you don't get the time to be in the stand, it can be tricky to be successful. Times like these make you all the more thankful for the chances when you actually get to go out and enjoy God's creation. Now we move on to the main event. Remember that #1 buck on my hit list I mentioned earlier? Let me introduce you to the Big Six.
Big Six. That's what I came over here for.
For me, in all my life, I was constantly just trying to accept lines and just not.
This buck became all I could think about as summer faded into fall. Throughout the season, I had 4 encounters with this buck. All 4 encounters coming from a different stand on a different piece of property. I seemed to have his number as he continued to show up in front of my stand.
Perfect wind for where I want to kill the Big Six. Well, folks, tonight going in to kill the Big Six. I hunted him in his core area. I'm fortunate enough that he made his core on a piece that I can hunt. I hunted him October 4th. I saw him. He was out pushing does. Probably came 100 yards from me. I was inside the woods and he was skirted the edge. Alright, folks, tonight it is October 29th, I think. I'm gonna go in and kill the Big Six with my longbow. Be the first deer I've killed with a longbow. Hoping to get it on film. The 27th, Saturday morning, I saw this buck at 20 yards. He was coming in on a hot doe, and unfortunately the doe got nervous and busted out of there. Didn't bring him by me, but it was this close. She was almost committed to coming by me, and he would have ended up in my lap. But she didn't, so he lives to see another day. So hopefully he's still in there, and I can get a crack at him tonight. It's a beautiful night, perfect wind for it, and we'll see what happens. I'm going back in tonight to where I had the close encounter with the Big Six a few days ago. Anything could happen. It's November 1st. I'd love to kill that Big Six that I've been seeing, but anything could walk by, so should be exciting night. It's just beautiful, perfect. The leaves are gorgeous. Hopefully I can share with you guys an awesome hunt tonight.
Now on this particular morning, it was November 11th, I was tucked up against thick bedding, and I had seen a few bucks that morning cruising, and sure enough, I look up into the bedding, see some movement, pick my binos up, and there he is. It's the Big Six. And he comes into 30 yards here, works this scrape, and then starts headed right towards me right here, like you can see. And he's completely downwind right now, and he didn't smell me. It was pretty amazing. He circled to my left there, and I had a couple lanes at 25 yards, and I told myself if he stops on his own, I'm gonna let one fly, but I didn't want to have to grunt stop him, make him alert, and then try and shoot that far with the longbow at 25 yards. So I opted for the conservative play, and I watched him walk out of my life. It was a pretty tough pill to swallow with rifle season just around the corner. I didn't know if I'd ever see him ever again. Well, folks, as you can see, I happened to see the big six again. It was on November 15th I decided I was going to rifle hunt this year. I haven't rifle hunted in probably 8-10 years, and this year I just decided I was going to be on call for work, so it's not real convenient to be trying to go out and sit in a stand way back in, and I just decided that I was going to rifle hunt and that I would be happy with this buck, even if I kill him with the rifle. So I got out of work that night. I had to work a little late because I was on call. We had an outage, and so I was running to the woods when I got done with that. I had probably 45 minutes to sit, and I'd only been sitting there 15 minutes. I heard crunching in the snow, and next thing you know, there's a big body standing out on the edge of the woods there. I pick the scope up and I just see the long sweeping G2, and pretty, you're not going to mistake that. That's the big six. He's very easy to pick out in the woods. There isn't anything else out there that looks even remotely close to him. It's the big six, and he was crossing a narrow field that I didn't have a whole lot of time to shoot. I put it on him and touched it off, and his front shoulders hit the dirt, and he started plowing, and right then I thought it was done. Thought I had took out both shoulders, double lung, and he kind of regained his footing under him a little bit. He made it into the woods. I didn't think much of it. Figured I'd go down there and see great blood trail in the snow, and I walked down there, not a speck of blood. And I was a little confused at that point. I started following this track into the woods, and it started snowing hard. Like, it started to cover some of his track. And I finally just started finding specks of blood, and I kept following this track. I found where he bedded twice. In each bed, you could see his legs tucked under him, and the only blood in the bed was on his right front leg. At that point, I knew I hit him in the leg, and that I wasn't going to get him that night. So I backed out and got a group of guys together in the morning and pretty much circled him and went in after him the first time, bumped him, got a few shots at him, and we chased this buck pretty much all day long. We chased him for literally 5 hours. Guys kept getting cracks at him, but it was thick. It was hard to get a good shot. They're getting full tilt running shots across fields, just tough shots. Nobody could get a good opportunity at him. And finally, we pegged him down to one last woods. We surrounded the woods, and I knew somebody was going to get one last crack at him. It was just whether or not somebody could finish him. And we bumped him out of the woods, and my neighbor, he was running right at my neighbor, and he shot twice. It didn't hit, and the third shot was literally like 3 feet from him. He's lucky he didn't get run over, and he shot that buck on a full tilt run and hit him directly in that eye socket. That's why the back of his skull is no longer there. Hit him right in the eye on a full tilt run at 3 feet. Stuck his rack in the ground. He did a somersault over himself, and that was it. That's the way the story ends. It was a crazy, crazy day, but persistence. I mean, I knew if we kept after him, we were gonna get enough opportunities to hopefully capitalize on him. We just kept going and going and going. A few times it looked like he might have got away, couldn't find him, and then I'd bump him again. And yeah, just persistence paid off, and it was a true blessing. I just kept praying, Lord, help us get this deer, help us get this deer, and we got him.
and it's a huge blessing. I think he was 17.5 inches inside. I think a 1G2 was close to 9. I think they're both about 9 inches. Just a crazy, unique buck. Awesome, tall brows, sweeps back. Just a true trophy. It's only a 6-point, but a true trophy that I will cherish for the rest of my life. Just an awesome deer and a crazy story.
Over the past few years, my hunting practices have changed quite a bit as I've started to pursue and try to figure out specific bucks rather than just settling on anything that walks by. This in itself has helped me grow my knowledge of deer behavior and specifically mature buck behavior. The journey for the Big Six was an incredible learning experience topped with a crazy story that I can share with my children someday. The season pushed into December, which presented me with some more awesome hunts. However, I wasn't able to harvest another deer. Overall, 2018 was an extremely successful year filled with learning and somewhat off-the-wall experiences. I've learned to never overlook a hunt, never give up, and cherish every minute I'm able to spend in God's beautiful creation. I'm looking forward to 2019 and all that God has in store for me this year. It is my goal to glorify Him in all I do. God bless, and thanks for watching.